at the same time. Yes. All right. Good. 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 So we started up a little bit late tonight, but we started both at the same time, so there will be no discrepancy between the two platforms. Thank you, people from the internet. Welcome back to one of our live videos here in A-létheia, the Speed Up Club. Tonight with a very well, I always say the same thing. A very interesting topic. I cannot deny that is my favorite word to describe the topic that we use. But the reasons why I think they are interesting is because it's not that I really just was the person that came up with the idea of this topic in itself. The majority of the topics that we have discussed in our sessions are ideas that were given to us by our own students in our sessions in different type of teaching work that we do here in A-létheia. So one of them asked me about jazz as a topic to discuss because we were discussing music, and we all know that jazz is that style that most people will consider like um, sometimes a little bit incomprehensible. Others love it. All right. Those people that love it sometimes are being not easily comprehended or understood by the rest of the people that don't understand jazz. And they always, tend to see them as snobs of sorts. I don't say that everybody's like that. Jazz is an acquired taste, as any type of taste that we have about music. In that, thinking about that precisely, I thought about Blue Giant to be a great manga that I could speak about that would go on the idea of jazz, how we can enter into the topic of jazz. How can we actually speak about this type of music that seems to be adored by a very few group of people, but these few group of people were vocal enough to say hello to people. Hello, Mr. Andres. How are you? Thank you. Thank you for being here. One of our loyal attendees. Thank you. Enjoy. And if you have a question, please shoot. So yeah, jazz is related to nice, nice, nice. Thank you. To this idea of a type of music that has so much complexity and so much simplicity at the same time. It has an intricate history, and we know that the people that love jazz try and preach about it everywhere. So much that all different type of music connoisseurs will normally put jazz among best top type of music genres of history of music. And you can say that jazz skills are permeate in many different other music styles, as most of American black music, modern and old black music, has lots of jazz in it, lots of blues in it. Rock has a lot of blues, a lot of jazz in it, and rock permeates everything else. So come on, jazz is everywhere. Many of the greatest musicians, performers, studio recorders, that have recorded any type of music style have been originally jazz musicians. And of course, their jazz productions are not as famous, despite the fact that they are really, really, really good. Okay? Now, you can have many jazz players playing different styles of music, for sure. But is the other way around is a little bit more difficult. To play jazz, like really be good at it, you need to have a level of quality that is simply just comparable to what art is. And as we know, art, one of the things that it is defined as proper art is not easy to be reproducible. If it was, then it's not art, it's artistry. That's totally different. I mean, it's handcraft. Art, as it is, has the particularity of uniqueness. And the way in which art is represented, whatever type of piece of art you perceive, it distinguishes itself from others as much as it validates the idea of art, okay, in its own representation. So I'm kind of using a little bit of higher vocabulary today. So let me go down to more examples. Let's speak about the idea of Blue Giant. Blue Giant is a manga that I happen to find just browsing among the different type of stories that I like to get to read. In reality, is not the type of stories that I normally gravitate the most when I'm wasting time, because I tend to gravitate mostly about things that are related to action. I don't know why I'm such an action reader lover. I am. And because of that, I love things, stories that are related to movement. I love seeing movement when I'm checking on written stories. That I believe it compensates the fact that I'm actually reading and not watching. Okay, if I see that there is drawing with movement, that whatever is being portrayed on the story I see, and it's done with perfect perform skill, at the moment that you see it, you can actually perceive the movement. You can actually get involved in what is happening. You get led. You are led to believe that what is happening is believable. Well, that is actually when you recognize the art, you recognize the skill. This story is not an action story per se, but it has lots of action in a not orthodox way. This is music manga and a coming of age manga at the same time, and a sort of documentary type of manga too. I am not completely updated to the last episode, the last story chapter. I know that there is an adaptation. I'm not sure if it's a real life adaptation or an anime adaptation coming, but for sure I knew of the adaptation coming, possibly to Crunchyroll. So it will be interesting to get to see what these people that do about this particular story. But up to the moment that I stopped reading it, I knew there was a hiatus of sorts, and then I waited for it to pile up a quantity of episodes so I could enjoy my reading time, because this is the type of story that you love reading, like with time, like sitting and go slowly and sort of feel or flavor what happens throughout the story. The protagonist of a story is right commendable as a character. He has the typical balance of not being special and at the same time having something special in it. The special thing is his level of interest and the level of passion that he makes. He tends to put in maybe silly things, apparently, things that are not that important. That is the slice of life character of manga, as it focuses a lot in the real life of young kids that are about to graduate from high school. And suddenly they need to make decisions about what they are about to do with their lives. Particular case of our protagonist, he discovers the love of music because of how someone referred to him in terms of music, the sound of the instrument that he bought, which that he began to play, that was the sax. He started playing jazz because he was referred to the music of jazz. He before had some experience with other type of music, but not as a person that wanted to actually perform the type of music. But when he was referred to this type of music by his, they call kohai, senpai, sorry, senpai in this case is upper grader student, someone that was about to graduate before them, and he explains how jazz was the most intense type of music ever. And he refers to intense maybe with something that resonated with that process that these kids were living at the time, this group of friends. were living at a time as they were reaching the moment of graduation and again opening the new world, opening to new things, the adventures or whatever is going to happen. And of course, a little bit of the nostalgia that comes to be, a feeling that's always there because you're closing that other door. Many of these friends, you're not going to see them anymore. Not that often, at least. It's not that you're not going to be friends anymore. It's just that you're not going to see them that often. And of course, the nostalgia of sharing the same classroom, etc., etc., etc. So you get to see all this in this manga. By the way, spoilers ahead. But what you actually get to see is that connection that the protagonist makes to music and understanding music from a different perspective that maybe otherwise, like if he hadn't had that approach, he possibly couldn't have fallen in love so deeply as he did to jazz. Okay. And that made me think about tonight's topic because I was actually speaking about this with my wife. Like, really, how is it that we like the music we like? I mean, my own experience with jazz is possibly all the way, I mean, the way in which I began to like jazz, all the way to Mr. Shamey. Welcome. 20, no, yeah, 2008, possibly. I got a question from Mr. Juan Andres. He says, I think I choose the music we like based on the way we like to express ourselves, if we could. For example, I'm not an expressive guy and like genres like Britpop and neo psychedelia. Oh man, I love those styles too. Hey, nice, nice. About Britpop, one of my favorite bands is Travis. I do hope that you and get to check it out if you're interested into. Neo Psychedelia and Queens of the Stone Age. Awesome. And when it's being when what you said is true about based on what we want to express, based on what we actually feel from expression. But you see, there is something to every particular type of light that we have that relates to the way we experience that thing we like. TV, music, sports, etc., etc., etc. Particularly when it comes to music, you all people that want to that are listening to us tonight, and people that will listen to us later when you watch this up in YouTube or in on Instagram, as long as Instagram keeps it. You guys can consider that if you think back from the moment in which you said, "Oh man, I really like this music style." At the beginning, we considered them music style, then they became music genres, right? So I really like this music style, not just the song, the music style. I mean, there had to be some type of music awareness by the time that you said that you like a style. Let's say that you like rock, all right? Okay, good. But rock is so wide in terms of the differences that you get there. Hip hop, you can say that is even one segment from or a type of evolution from rock. So imagine how wide rock is when it comes to influence. So many people that love rock don't love all type of rock, right? So particularly in my case, how I got to love the type of rock that I love. I remember I was telling my wife this. My story was a little bit sad because I grew up in a town. My early ages, in my early years, the town where I was growing up, it was a small city in Colombia. For not many people that know about this, and there in 1980, the type of music that you had was the urban type of music that you had was basically a combination of vallenato, salsa baú, I think is that what defined it. Still some glimpses of salsa brava, some type of merengues, lots of cumbia, and lots of mixes of Latin, back then 1980s Latin pop, right? And of course, particularly at home where I grew up, my early years, the type of music that my aunts used to play were the worst examples of all that I mentioned before. And the type of people that used to come to my house, to visit my aunt in those days that she was partying around, were not the type of people that I admire the most. So I began to have a type of reference to that type of music as not the type of music that I would love to share with my friends. But of course, early on, I would not really had a particular, um, eh, let's say, preferred or simply just chosen style of music. That did not really come in my early age. That came way, let's say, at 8 years old. I could recognize type of music that I loved, but all the music that I loved was mostly movies, music in movies that I watched. As long as it was presented to me in a great scene, that song was basically in my head. I remember like one of my first really deep earworms came from the famous theme song of um, a Never Ending Story, right? That song, everybody had it, right? Everybody ever thought about that if you watch that movie. And I remember that I didn't even remember the movie, but I did remember the song all the time. That looping a chorus in my head. So I really got to listen the first time, the first song that I said, man, this is mine. This is something that me and only me appreciates. That arrogance that you have in that time, in that moment, was possibly when I was turning 13 years old, 12 to 13, which is a very interesting connection that I have with some of the people that I know in this channel that I met in at that age. That age is crucial. You begin to get to choose what you like from that early age, right? What you begin to make distinctions between you and your friends from that early age. Mr. Pedro, welcome. And Jose Andres was just before in YouTube. I hope that he comes back. But well, if you have any questions about the topic, shoot. Anyway, I remember that my age, turning 13, from 12 to 13, it was me bored out of my head, sitting in front of a radio, trying to find station that I could enjoy the music that I know that I would like. Remember, back then, all the type of music that I love was what I could recognize on TV or movies, video clips. Michael Jackson was big on me back then. But again, the very first thing that I heard in this radio station that I found miraculously, Radiohead Creep. From the very first chords of that song, it got me. It got me, and I thought that this was unique, that it was weird, especially when the guitar started breaking with the big distortion. I thought that that distortion was like, like watching, I don't know, or opening a box full of gold, a chest full of gold, in an adventurous island. At that time, I thought that I was really discovering, like, you know, a miracle. That's the only thing I thought, right? So, of course, back then I knew that rock existed. Of course I did. But the type of connection I had to rock was to the reference that I had of the people that liked rock when I was a kid. And the type of rock that they liked was not really the type of rock I actually could admire, because these people looked jarred and lazy and simply just not attractive at all, even sometimes dirty and smelly. I don't know. The type of music that they used to have in their backgrounds was basically that never-ending shout, high-pitched shout by a guy with long, unkept hair, some way. I guess that's the reason why I never really got to appreciate Iron Maiden, though I know for sure Iron Maiden is a band full of great musicians. It's just that the reference that I have of them was so negative. All the people that I knew back then that liked this type of music for me was like, no, I don't want to hang out with them. So when I heard them, when I heard Radiohead in this song from Pablo Honey, Creep, and then a few days later, I heard Nirvana for the first time. I realized that rock had many different shades of gray or black, however you want to put it, and I loved it. And I started investigating back then. Back then, you started investigating with radio because I didn't have access to internet till possibly 2005. Wow, like really, really long over there, right? I did have some internet connection in a job I had briefly on communication, but it's not the same. That was just me looking for resolving homework. That was it. It was different, yeah, yeah. The way we had the internet connection. So for me, in my case, my access to music was radio. So I became an avid radio listener. And from radio, I became an avid MTV watcher. And of course, got a lot of MTV to watch. Pero as a comment here in YouTube, hello, Pedro. So you're now in both sides. Awesome, Pedro. So if you have a question, remember, Pedro, shoot. We are trying to guess how we can connect this manga, um, the Blue Giant, with the question about how is it that we like, I mean, the music we like. So I heard for the first time this band, these heavy, crunchy guitars, and from that moment on, my world changed. And I even consider become a full-fledged musician and abandoning studies and all that. If it wasn't because people around me hated rock, I would have possibly done that. But yeah, people around me loved reggaeton. And I've always hated reggaeton for the same reason. Because not only for me, it sounds awful, it represents everything that I hate about the music industry, right? Like how come people enjoy something that has no real value, no real artistic value? But you see, with time I began to appreciate other different types of music because I began to learn through just knowing people and getting a wider reference on how I was supposed to appreciate music. The more you get to know people, the more conversations that are valid for you about getting to know, getting to appreciate stuff that you possibly wouldn't know in any other different circumstances. The more you begin to dig in stuff that is new, completely new for you, and surprisingly will give you incredible pleasure. You see, that's one of the best things about university for all the people that are getting to college right now. You get to see not just people that are in your same level, but you actually appreciate people that are from all different type of levels. But they don't have that particular division or protection that you have from school time or high school time in which your parents were supposed to speak for you or on behalf of you for anything. This is you in front of the world, in front of what you are supposed to become later on. If you're becoming a lawyer, you need to become a lawyer from the classroom on and so on. It's like the poison is supposed to happen from school, but it's not easy. We all know that it's not true. It's not easy, right? At the very beginning, we're totally unassuming. Like, yeah, I'm starting to become a physicist. Really? Am I gonna compare myself with Niels Bohr? I'm starting to be a philosopher. Am I gonna be the next Aristotle? Really? You obviously doubt yourself from the very beginning, considering that uh, you can look up to these people, but not necessarily you walk all those major steps that these people did. But eventually you manage to get close and you don't know that you do. That's when you need to work. When you need to work, you need to put into practice everything that you know. And you think, up until you graduate, you think that you don't know anything. But then you have to work. And as you have to work, you realize, well, maybe I got some tools. Maybe I got something to say to the world. But that's a different story, right? We're speaking about music. All of us had an encounter that made us choose one song that let us go to another song from the same genre, from the same type package, the same connection, the same people, the same universe. And we decided in that moment that that was the type of music that we consider our favorite. Okay? If that's the case, we all can consider that all of us have songs that we keep to ourselves because we doubt other people will appreciate them. We don't want to share them simply because we will feel embarrassed to. And we have shared in the past some type of song and we have felt rejection or at least the mockery of our friends, but because they all considered the song was awful. Maybe secretly they appreciated the song, but you know how kids are, they're cruel. And as that happens, they, we made the assumption that there are some things that we better keep to ourselves. I remember back then when I started to go crazy loving all type of rock from the early 90s. You know, the Chili Peppers, uh, the Pumpkins, the bands that were a little bit unknown as back then, like Tool. Like nobody knew Tool back then, but I was one of those people that was really excited about the very first two albums of Tool. Um, what else? The beginning of industrial. Well, not the beginning really, but the commercialization of industrial. Nine Inch Nails, and then of course the very first album of um, Marilyn Manson, uh, etc., etc., etc. All those bands, I thought back then that everybody could appreciate how good they were, musically speaking, just by playing some, let's say, Vitalogy or 10 from Pearl Jam. People will simply just listen to the solos, listen to the voice, making the combinations of both, and they will appreciate it. Listen to some Megadeth, Rest in Peace. People will appreciate all the chaotic order of uh, um, Holy Wars or um, the Eye of a Tornado. uh, you know, of Megadeth. I'm speaking about Megadeth. I thought that that was something that was supposed to be appearing, like a known thing by everybody. And I had it hard. It was really hard for me every time that I had to hang out with friends. And we had to, go to the moment of playing music. And they played the music that I hated the most. For me, it was like, why? Why is it that people seem to be confabulated, all of them, to just torment me with really awful music? What's going on? Even people that I admired back then didn't really like the music that I like. So the very few people that I know that like rock, Well, I tried to hang out with them, but then they liked some type of rock that I didn't like, and so on and so forth. You see my point? It was kind of like, well, I cannot use music as a way to socialize because obviously people will not really appreciate music the way that I appreciate it. So if I ever had the chance in a party to be led choosing the music for the party, I will last 2 minutes. That's it. I mean, like people say, "Oh, what? What's that? We're in a party. Put something we can dance." And I will play some, I don't know, the pitch mode. I thought that people could dance to the pitch mode, but no. In Latin America, the pitch mode apparently was not danceable by everybody. Okay, people did not consider danceable at all. Everybody, but I did, and somehow I think that I idealized the environments in which this type of music could be appreciated. So, of course, if I watch a video of a concert in which people were listening to rock, I will say, man, I would have loved to be there in that time. Now, as an adult, I know for sure that that thing is not exactly as I thought it was. Because now that if I watch the same footage, if I watch the same piece of concert, I get to listen to the rock that these people are listening, which is simply just some distortioned guitar sound. I would say, oh, nah, I don't like that sound. That's some generic, stylish rock sound that I don't appreciate much. And then if I get to see the people really appreciate the people, I will not really appreciate them. I will say, these are the type of kids I would never really hang out with. So by the conclusion, I will say, what's going on? Did I change? Did my style, sorry, did my appreciation of music style change in all these more than 20 years? Right? Not really. I still love rock and I still love a very type of music style. But then those music styles, if I get to think about this, all of them have something in common. And what I have in common was I got a good reference, a great reference, in fact, of each one of those music styles by things that I appreciated from what people that I respected referred to me, or simply places where I respected that type of music was referred to me. As I mentioned before, my first association to music was movies, then TV in general, and then conversations. Conversations were so important to me about music. I could appreciate more a type of music if I actually got someone to explain to me like why this music was this way or that way. Again, if I wanted to investigate, really investigate, I needed to go to a library to investigate. And not all the time I had the time to go and spend on the library to just investigate about that. I had to do homework and other different stuff. I did spend hours in the library investigating about other stuff, but I didn't really do it for music. So I must confess that for now. I got to do that later on with internet. Okay. I see that that path that I lived is a little bit different from the path that have seen on other people that I know a lot. And I understand the reasons why they had the differences that they had, the references that they had. Like, if I speak about, one of the people that I love the most in the world, for her, she had the opportunity of having people at home that collected music albums of all many different type of genres, and she could actually make a comparisons of them by the way some of them were like better appreciated back then than others. Like, I mean, if there was something about salsa, it was not just every type of salsa. It was like the best type of salsa that was being played at the time. Why the best? Because critics and other different type of reasons, quality among them. And if it was rock, the same thing. If it was R&B, the same thing, and so on and so forth. So of course, if I get to speak to a person that is as knowledgeable as such as I have described, The references I will get from what this person will say will help me actually make a better idea of what type of music I should actually get to listen to. Why do I say references? I actually am not, pulling this out of my rear end. I'm actually speaking about something that we have discussed in the past here in this channel, which is the advent of ideology analyzing, as is the work done by Mr. Slavoj Žižek, and how he denounces how it is important for us to understand ideology, to understand how ideology it is involved in every little thing that we do in our lives. And one of the things is basically how we get to appreciate art. The beginning of the documentary that you can find in YouTube if you want to check it out. A perverse guide to ideology and a perverse guide to cinema, both. But the one about a perverse guide to cinema, it actually hits home quite deeply for me because I'm Generation X, right? Most of my pop culture, most of my, um, is let's say collection of symbologic figures that I have of my early age is stuff that I saw obviously movies and TV. As of course I did not have much access of having, let's say, vinyl music, for example, at home. Uh, we moved quite a lot between two, three countries as I was a kid, and of course that thing made me not having the capacity of having much stuff in reality. So once I began to do so is when we gained a little bit of stability as I was growing up, and that was after my 11th birthday. Back then, I mentioned before that I started listening to radio, and what I started listening to was what I had as a reference from early age of movies and TV. In Slavoj Žižek introduction of A Perverse Guide to Cinema, he starts by saying something like this. He says that cinema, sorry, that we humans don't know what to desire in reality. Humans learn how to desire through cinema because cinema produces a series of images in such a way that it leads to a narrative that we get hooked on, and that narrative basically make us desire what we see, as it is the effect of the mirror cells that we have in our cortex, the cortex of our brain, that allow us to consider that if there is something that works and on another person, it should work on us, and then therefore we should try to pursue it somehow. And you can say that in the rules of the seven deadly capital sins, you got envy as one of the most important ones, which is the one that makes you try to, copy from the other. At the same time, is the base of capitalism, the one with which you say that if that something is appreciated by one person, well, it becomes a commodity, and as it becomes a commodity, it is something that should be capitalized. So Zizek hits the mark perfectly when he says that cinema presents a form for us to desire. But if I get to change a little bit the audience from cinema, my generation, to video games, the generation of kids today, well, this is perfect to describe why is it that you have such variety of weird ways of compilations of tastes today for kids, because the video games today have that combination of so many different genres in the same package that it conflicts on the content with what people, kids, normally is supposed to listen to. For example, the typical situation that happens in the US, with white kids enjoying hip hop. It's a sad thing, but it's true. White kids enjoying hip hop are not supposed to be, willingly um, uh, singing out loud a chorus in which the N word is pronounced. If they are white people, they will basically get themselves in trouble, especially if they get recorded by other people, right? So, but that doesn't really mean that they cannot really enjoy the music that they enjoy. So, of course, it is a conflict because something that they only have the chance of listening and simply what murmur, self censor. It doesn't really that situation that these people in the U.S. have not really helped racism. It has basically reinforced a stereotypical way of judging stuff. That's weird. Good thing that we're not living there. We don't have so much racism as they actually live every day. We have some, but not that much. And as such, these type of figures don't work so badly on us. And I'm speaking about the symbolic ideas. However, there are others that are really heavy, and how, for example, certain type of music is associated with certain type of people. Such is the case as I know here when I got to Ecuador with a type of music that I never ever heard before was salsa choque. Honestly, I don't think it's bad, but it's weird for me to get to appreciate it because I have terrible reference of it. And as I have terrible references of it, I haven't really ventured myself to try to get to listen to any artist that represents this type of genre. Maybe there might be someone that I consider a genius, but I doubt. I doubt in this type of music that I particularly would enjoy genius composition because I know the type of reference of music that I have, and I know my own algorithm, and I know how tedious and complicated I am with the stuff that I like. But I know that I am not the only person. I know that every person is like me in a different form or way. Every person have their own codes of how they appreciate the art that they appreciate. Some people cheat. Some people don't know how to appreciate art. And we all know that this is motivated not to, let's say, having special powers or special sensitivity. Not really. This is just a matter of knowledge, culture, being culturized. You choose to be ignorant if you choose to simply just not try to find out anything that's, a little bit of outside of your comfort zone. Yes, you are ignorant if you try never to listen to anything that is outside your comfort zone. But at the same time, you're entitled to listen to whatever you want because it's you, it's your life. Today, we know that kids get these packages of music appreciation from what they see on video games, what they watch on video games, what they play on video games all the time. And the variety of video game titles that they play will give them a variety of music styles to listen to, music songs to listen to. And I get surprised sometimes with kids that have a particular type of character that come to me from time to time by saying, "Oh, I heard this Sepultura song, this Pantera song, this Nirvana song, this NFX song." Same kid. This LL Cool J song. It's funny. It is funny. I mean, I think that if I had been a kid in this generation, I would probably be the same. I would not be maybe just a rocker. I would be an extreme listener or whatever. And at the same time, I get sad because some kids that I get to appreciate their intelligence waste those great, beautiful neurons by listening awful, awful crap as some trap music that they listen to. That's how they call it, trap. So that's crap. And not all of them. I know I'm exaggerating, but it's difficult for me to appreciate that. And reggaeton, the type of music that I will always, always, always hate, no matter what. I'm really sorry for all reggaeton players, all reggaeton artists. Some of you guys could actually be people that studied music, music composition, and have made incredible compositions in the rhythm and style of reggaeton. But I cannot really appreciate reggaeton because of, again, the reference it comes from. And I totally agree with Shishak in that matter, in terms of we don't learn because we feel like it naturally. We learn because we have a reference that have been given to us. My reference was a total negative reference. I loved rock from the very beginning, and I started to love the type of rock, artistic rock, with the people from Radiohead and Creep, because that type of music was a synthesis, the opposite of what I heard around me as I was growing up. All the type of music my aunts used to listen to, crazy vallenato, lots of cumbia, lots of salsa baúl, etc., etc. Uh, Maxi, welcome. If you have any questions, shoot. So you see, this situation is totally understandable that every person have a different type of experience, and that type of experience determined, defined, redefined the type of music this person got to enjoy as favorite from early age to late on. You know, I remember as a kid, I had this conversation with this lady. She said, well, speaking about music, and me, of course, being a teenager and disdainfully commenting on how bad certain type of Latin music was. She was saying, I used to be like you when I was your age. I only loved the Beatles and stuff like that. But as I grew up, I learned to appreciate my own music, music from my own people, Latin music. And you will do too. I thought she was crazy, but I must say that she was right. There's a lot of Latin music that I know now that I love listening to. And when I was a kid, I thought that I hated Latin music. What happened in me? Growing up, learning, appreciating stuff by having a wider reference. Now, did I stop liking my old music? Well, I cannot really claim to say that I listen to everything exactly as I used to. I still listen to Radiohead, but I don't listen to Pablo Honey anymore. I listen to other albums from Radiohead. From time to time, I listen to the nostalgic chords of Radiohead, Creep, but not the song in itself. I listen to the song contextualized wherever the song pops up, and it pops up a lot because nostalgia is everywhere right now on TV and movies. The question that I asked my students was, like, how come you kids listen to um, let's say Led Zeppelin or um, Black Sabbath or Oyster Club or Green Day? How come you guys know about music that is 30 or 20 years old? And these kids, they couldn't really respond because they couldn't really know about the differences between years and years of music. However, they did agree that the songs that they were telling me that they love, most of them they actually heard them in video games or in the video game movies they watched later on. So newer generation, different platform. Different platform works incredibly in the impact it produces on how this generation actually appreciates art. Happens to music, happens to movies, happens to everything. In fact, I have this friend that said, in a way, a crazy prediction that people will stop appreciating cinema as we have it now because we will think that cinema is, or the cinema pieces are just too long, and people just don't have time. I will not have more time ever to simply just sit down and watch a full movie in one go. I thought he was just, nah, he was not really, really, really right at that time when he said that. But today, I live that. Sometimes it's difficult for me to finish a full movie in one sit. I don't say with this that cinema is dead or that I stop appreciating cinema. I just say that things are changing and you don't know what's going to happen 20 years from now, depending on the platform that makes us appreciate the art that we appreciate. We will have a different reference, and this different reference will make us enjoy or hate a particular type of genre, music, or different style. Today, it's surprising that people enjoy Polyphia or Animals as leaders as rock bands, when these bands are synthesis of what many people used to say that was basically something that people hated, like instrumental rock. Come on, who loves that? Was supposed to have been dead for years. But you see, these people are making it, and they're making it awesome. I love the music that I love. I am proud of it, and I can tell for sure that I would love more different type of music genres if I put myself to, you know, search, investigate, find out, talk to people, be uh, empathetic with people, being open, especially being close-minded. It's really never beneficial at all. With these people, we thank you for all the people that got to join us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Andres. Thank you, Mr. Pedro, Mr. Jamie, and Mr. Maxi. Um, I do hope that you guys leave any comment whenever you have a chance. I will actually try to answer as soon as I can. I will always answer, but I'm trying to answer as soon as I can the moment that you leave us a comment there. So for the rest of the people, disclaimer, remember, we have this space specifically as a form of a service that we offer to everyone that have ever studied with us or are studying with us, as we put in practice a series of techniques, tools, etc., that we things that we practice in our classes, things that we have taught them in our classes, and we put all of this in practice to your disposal for you to have the best example possible, and it allows you to have some level of companionship in your own learning process. But of course, this is not only for them, this is also for anyone that is interested in getting to improve, getting to master their, ESL, language, English as a second language. If you guys want to get better at this, if you want to contact us to help you guys in this is basically what A-létheia is for. Please leave us a comment here in the chat, in the comments of the video on YouTube, and the video in Instagram. We are here to help you. Anyone that is going all the way from English to Spanish and Spanish to English, or any language to both of the languages that we said. Doubts, we are here to help you. Okay? And with that, people, we don't think we have anyone online anymore. No. So that was it. We didn't make a full hour tonight, but I think that we spoke enough. All right. So, people from the internet, thank you. Bye bye. Say bye first to the people of Instagram. Yes. And then now we say bye to the people of YouTube. Thank you, people. Bye bye.